Hello, everyone. Let's see who is joining us. I'm updating events. Welcome. Please let us know that you can hear us and see us. Say something in the chat box. Don't be shy. We're just starting out this webinar, Victor and myself. So please let me know if you can see us and hear us. Yay, fantastic. Adrian Major, Lisa, thank you so much. I'm so happy you can see us and hear us. Fantastic. So thank you for joining us today. This is the second time Victor and I are doing a joint webinar, and it was a blast the first time. And today we're talking about something very dear to my heart, which is retiring in Portugal. So we're going to be here for about an hour. We're going to have a presentation, share some ideas for about 30, 40 minutes. Then you guys will have about 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. So before we actually start the content, please use the Q&A only tab, which is just beside the chat tab, the chat box, to include your questions. So this helps us to get straight to the questions and be more efficient with answering them. So I hope you enjoy this. And shall we get started, Victor?
Sure, let's go.
Fantastic. So today we are going to talk about a little bit about us, because some of you, so I do see some familiar names, but many of you don't know who Victor and I are, what we do. So we're going to introduce ourselves quickly. Then we're going to talk about our tips and ideas to make retirement in Portugal smooth and easy. Then we're going to talk about some of the next steps that you can take regarding implementing your plans of retiring in Portugal. And finally, as I mentioned, we will have a Q&A at the end to answer your burning questions. So let's get to the first part. So since I already am talking, ladies first, right, Victor? We're old school. I'm Deborah. I'm an expat coach and intercultural psychologist. I have been an expat foreigner immigrant for about 40 years. I'm originally from Brazil, and I've lived in 5 different countries throughout my life. And having had some challenges with my first move to Portugal, this is actually my second time in Portugal, I decided to really understand what went wrong the first time I moved to Portugal. So I lived in Portugal from 2001 to 2005, then didn't work out. I left and then came back in 2013. And that was when I said, you know what, I need to understand what the hell went wrong. What can I do better this time? So I got a master's in intercultural psychology. I got a coaching certification and lots of other courses. And basically, since 2016, I have been working with people, helping them prepare, implement, and adjust to life abroad, not only Portugal, but life in a foreign country, in a different country. Now, in the beginning, I said that this topic is dear to my heart, and I'll share the reason why. During my master's in intercultural psychology, I wrote a dissertation. My area of study, of focus, was international retired migrants in Portugal. So today, I get to talk about what I studied and gave blood, sweat, and tears to write my dissertation. So I'm super happy to do this here. And Feel free to ask me any questions at the end about my journey. I'm happy to help and to clarify anything you need if you have any questions. So, Victor, now to you.
Thank you, Deborah. It's always a pleasure to share the microphone with you. It's the second time we're here, and it's a pleasure to talk to so many people, and I can see some familiar names as well. And it feels very nice to share the message with so many people. And this is an important topic. No wonder it was Deborah's dissertation, because it will certainly reflect on the relocation procedure overall. So I'm very happy to talk about this topic with Deborah. So just quick introduction. I'm Victor. Um, I work in a company called Vive Europe that assists people who are willing to move to Portugal. And I've been working with relocation for the last, uh, oh my, probably uh, something like 10 years. Um, it's a topic that I really enjoy working with, getting to know new people. This is certainly one of the most important things in working in this field. And again, I'll try to share some knowledge with you guys, answer some questions in the end. And yeah, I'm happy to do it with. And it's so easy to share a webinar with Deborah, because she knows, especially when you talk about moving to Portugal, she knows uh, a lot about the topic. So.
Oh. Oh, thank you so much. You make me blush. You make me blush. Thank you. Thank you, Victor. Fantastic. So shall we start with the tips? Are you excited? I'm excited. So let's get started. So basically the tip number one is to know the purpose of the move. Now, why am I saying this? This might sound a little bit weird. Correct me if I'm wrong. Everyone here has a list, probably a laundry list of the reasons why they want to move. That's normal. That's what we usually do. But the thing here that is really important is to know the purpose, what you are moving for. And I'll explain. Because most of the time, the list of reasons why we want to move have to do with things we want to get away from, or things that are external to us and we want to gain. So I'll give you some examples. I want to move because the cost of living is high, or because of political situation, because I want to get rid of that. Or you can say, I want to move because I want a better climate, because I want a lower cost of living. Typically anything that you fill in the blanks with because, that is something that usually is external. Now, what happens is we move to live abroad. We don't move to move. The move is just a moment in time towards a life in another country. And if we're focused only on the external factors, and we don't dig in to the what for, and it goes beyond the why, it's the what for, what is the purpose, what is your vision, how do you want to feel, how do you want to live, what do you want to contribute. Now, this is relevant for living abroad, full stop. This is even more relevant when retiring abroad, because there are two transitions happening at the same time. So it's super important to dig a little bit deeper and unravel the layers of what is your vision for your life in this new country. Now, this has implications in terms of mindset, but also has implications in terms of practicalities, right, Victor? How do you see different purposes and different visions pan out in the practical side of moving to Portugal?
That's actually a very good question, Deborah. And when we talk about relocation, the, uh, when we are starting the procedure, the paperwork, certainly the reasons why you decide to move to Portugal will have a huge impact on the paperwork, on the type of visa that you will apply for. So let's say that you are moving to Portugal just to retire, to spend a good life here in Portugal, take advantage of the climate and everything. So probably you will apply for one specific type of visa that will match your documents for being a retired person. And if you, this is just a simple example, there are many types of visas, of course, but knowing the reasons why you are looking forward to move to Portugal will actually create the process that we will have to carry out during the next, let's say, 4 to 6 months.
Mhm.
So making a bad decision will probably cost you money, cost you time, and yeah, you will be in a bad situation having to start from the ground now that you had the time to really think about why you want to move to
Mhm.
Portugal. So there are some practicalities, that's for sure. And so before even start this procedure, thinking about the reasons why it's very, very, very important.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. So it's what I think is very interesting, and many people are not fully aware of, is that the practical aspects and the mindset, they join together. So the better your mindset, the easier and the smoother the practical side goes, because you know what you want, you're clear, the level of anxiety will be lower because you have worked on the mindset. And that reflects on dealing better with bureaucracy, dealing better with uncertainty. So these things tend to work together. When they work well, it means that you have a smooth move and life abroad. If the mindset is not exactly in the right place, it will spill over and will make the practical side a lot more difficult than it has to be. Isn't that what you see in your clients, with your clients? I know that's what I see.
Certainly, certainly, it's
Absolutely.
it's very important. I guess there are some people who just wake up one day and just from nowhere they decide to move to Portugal without having the time to really consider if this is the right move. This is the type of client that probably will face some difficulties during the process.
Absolutely, absolutely. So keep your questions coming, guys. I see 4 or 5 questions in the Q&A tab. Fantastic. At the end, during the Q&A session, we'll get to them. And shall we go to our next tip, Victor?
Sure.
Yeah? Great. Let's move on. So tip number 2 is, no matter what you expect, it will probably be different. And many of my clients, well, not when they're my clients because they know better, but many people before they become my clients, they say, I have no expectations. And then I kind of challenge them and say, well, isn't kind of not having expectations an expectation in itself? You're expecting not to expect. And then their mind goes, because, well, we will expect. This is normal human behavior. We are wired to judge, to compare, to think that something is good or bad. That's how we function. Now, being open and knowing where to find reliable information before you start the transition, meaning before you move abroad, that is crucial, because when you have reliable information, and I'm not talking about social media groups, I'm talking about reliable information, you will be able to better manage your expectations because they will be there. So you might as well admit the expectations are there, and things are going to be different. Now, this is true not only for the move abroad and the life abroad, but for retirement. Because sometimes we expect, and I've worked with many people in this phase of retirement, that, oh, it's going to be amazing. Oh, I'm so tired of working. And then after the honeymoon period, which actually happens both in retirement and in the life abroad, they realize that there's something missing, that they feel the need to contribute to society and to be valuable because they're active mentally and physically. So if you don't think about that before you actually make the move and the transition, it's very common to fall into a void, what I call the void of nothingness. It's like, okay, I did it, check, 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 but I'm still not fulfilled. And that's what happens when we look for outside aspects to fulfill us, when actually it comes from the inside and our internal motivations. So how does, the expectation and, and managing these expectations, how do you see that in your daily life in terms of, for example, you expect to pay less taxes and then in reality you have to pay more, or you expect to live in a place and then you realize you don't have the budget? How do you see that with your practice?
Deborah, another very interesting point to talk about, that's for sure, expectations. It's very clear that when people choose to move to another country, they are in a, usually they are in a very, they're happy with the move. They want to see what's the new country, what's the new environment that they will be in, and they don't consider the, let's say, the bad side related to a relocation, and this may impact the expectations. So there is this gap between expectation and reality. As you mentioned, the more you research for good information, the this gap can be impacted. So the more information you have, the less you feel this expectations going to a bad spot. But overall, if you go look for good information, if you are prepared for the worst case scenario, that's something you should consider as well. Always know that we tend to think that everything will be fine. We see on Facebook that people, they share good impressions, they share happy stories, and we kind of feel that the same will happen with us. But each one has this specific story, this specific procedure, and don't take any other words as, let's say, the only source related to a move. So it's very important to prepare, to consider the worst case scenarios. Also, I have some tips for people who are looking forward to move and have this good expectations, especially as this webinar is focused on retired people. And we see some common examples on our daily basis. So of bad choices. So when we talk about people who are just coming to Portugal to enjoy their life, what's important to know is first, try to search for places where you can find a community. You don't want to be here alone because in this first step of your move, you'll probably be here. You probably won't know anybody other than your family that will come with you. If you have people to share information, to make new friends, it's also something that you should consider. And here in Portugal, I guess Deborah can agree. There are some, let's say, communities that are known for, uh, let's say, choose a specific region to live. For example, usually the people who are from the UK, they go to the Algarve region. People who are, I guess in Lisbon, you will find everything. All communities you will find it in Lisbon for being such a big city. But this research is important for you to at least be around people that can help you in this procedure. Um, Also, uh, usually people who come to Portugal, they want to avoid driving. They want to go to a place where they can just walk around, get a public transport such as a subway or a train. So when choosing where to live, consider the distance between this public transport system because it will be good for you. And the third one, what third tip that I will give you is that it's important to do your homework, to go after information. There are people that have gone through this path before who are here to help you in this process. Deborah, I, for working in this field for so long, we know where people usually they fall into those pitfalls, those common mistakes. So maybe consider working with people who has gone through this path before. Maybe that's a good call.
Mhm.
These are my three
Fantastic. Thank
tips.
you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this. And absolutely, building community, whatever that means for you, because it means different things for different people, it does help a lot. You mentioned, deciding where to live. I just wanted to put out there, I have a video called How to Decide Where to Live and also other resources. If anyone wants to go to my YouTube channel, just search for my name. You'll find the video that has my step-by-step system on how to decide where to live. So if that's something that people are interested in, you can go there and find that video on YouTube. So let's get to, we have lots of questions. I love this, and I love that we have lots of questions. Keep them coming. Thank you for using the Q&A tab. Some people are have included questions in the chat box. So just a reminder, we will only be considering the questions in the Q&A tab. Okay, so make sure your question is there so we can get to it. Let's get to tip number 3. Are you ready? Yes, everyone ready? Fantastic. So let's get there. So tip number 3 for people who are retiring and moving abroad. Understand that there are at least 2 transitions happening at the same time. So the retirement process is something extremely important in most people's lives because many of us associate even our sense of identity to our jobs, to our work. When we meet someone new at a dinner party or at an event, the first thing someone will ask us is our name. The second thing someone will ask us is what we do for a living. So, in a very big degree, it kind of defines us. So, having that non-answer when you're retired in the beginning can feel great, but it can also feel quite uncomfortable because it's something new. Now, when we are moving abroad while retiring, these two things are happening at the same time. And one thing that I tell my clients all the time is that it is easier to look at the external and attribute your challenges to what you see as different. So you blame the bureaucracy, you blame you can't communicate, you blame, and it's not that that's not true. Yes, there are communication issues, there is bureaucracy and all that, but many times there is a need to really reconcile this new phase in life that has to do more with internal aspects and mindset aspects, not only the challenges with the environment. This is something people forget. And to be quite honest, in my practice since 2016, I can say that 98% of people who are living or moving or living abroad are also going through some other transition. Either they're retiring or they are leaving a job in terms of changing their career or going back to school, and it's really important to acknowledge that there is a moment of loss. There is a moment of grief for that life that is gone, and rebuild the expectations, rebuild the purpose for this new phase to be a productive and positive one. Now, what implications do you see here? For example, Victor, let me tell you one example of a client of mine that might resonate with you. She was a business owner in America, in the States. She sold her business and decided to live off her investments, kind of retire, early retirement. And she came to work with me because she's like, I'm here. This is always what I wanted, to move to Portugal. But after 6 months, I'm unhappy. I don't know what to do with myself. So we started working together. And after our work together, she realized that she wanted to change careers. So she went back to school. Now, what type of implication does this have, for example, if someone has a retire visa, but decides to work as a freelancer afterwards? What are the implications if you've ever seen these aspects?
Yeah, this is actually quite common. First, because not only people, they don't know that there are more types of visa to apply for, because the D7 visa is usually the only visa that people know about. But the good thing is, just going to your practical example, is that you can change your the reasons why you came to Portugal. You can start working here, usually even if you apply for another type of visa. So this is good for considering the Portuguese visas. They are very flexible in a way. But just going back to the transition, again, another very important topic to talk about, because you should do your, the activities, your homework before coming to Portugal. That's for sure. And there are some duties, some responsibilities that you have to carry out in your home country. People usually, they only think about Portugal. So I want to move to Portugal to buy a house, to start a new life. But there are some duties that you need to consider if you don't want to have a headache while living in Portugal. So you will, in a way, you will close the doors in your home country when you move to Portugal, you will probably become a tax resident in Portugal and not in your home country anymore. So, just for example, some common activities that you should consider doing before moving to Portugal. And each country has its own rules, its own uh, duties. So, for example, you may have to inform your country that you are moving to another country. So, inform your tax authority, inform the banks that you work with in your home country. These will certainly be useful. For example, if you don't want to pay fine, for example, when you are not a tax resident in your home country anymore, and they will know about it. So there are rules, there are deadlines, there are responsibilities, and one of the responsibilities that we see our clients sometimes they do have some kind of questions, and this is related to when you can start doing your uh, transition in a way. When can you really rent one apartment? When can you bring your stuff to Portugal, for example? There are some periods to do these activities, and most of them you should consider doing only after your visa is granted, because then you'll have a kind of a certainty that you are welcome, that you fulfill the requirements to live in another country. Because if you do these activities before your visa is granted, maybe you have to undo everything that you did, and this can be quite uh, challenging in a way. But these common activities, one important activity you can do is to grant a power of attorney for someone that you trust in your home country to deal with some common, uh, let's say, activities, to talk to some specific agency in your home country. Because if you don't do this, you might have to travel back to your home country just to do one simple task that you could have avoided if you uh, granted this person powers to do it. So these small activities are important to do in order not to make your transition harder than it should be. These are my tips.
Fantastic. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing that view. So we've went through the 3 tips. Now is time for our next part, and then we're going to get to the Q&A. So I want to let everyone know that I'm offering my free ebook. I will also put at the end the offer here. You can scan the QR code. You can find it also on my website. It's called Move Overseas with Ease, and it is a compilation of many of my own learnings and learning the things that I learned with clients. You are free to download it. And I hope it's helpful for you in your journey. It doesn't matter if you have moved already or if you're planning. There are relevant content for both moments, for either moment. So I just wanted to let everyone know that you have access to this ebook. Victor, do you want to talk about your services before we go to the Q&A?
Sure, very quickly. So, as I mentioned before, we work with relocation. So all the paperwork that's related to a smooth transition, we can help you with. NIFs, a bank account. If you are a business person, maybe you think that Portugal is a nice place to develop your business. You'll be in Europe. and so we can help you with the business incorporation as well. Um, we have some new services that we are putting into place this year. First one is the accounting service. Uh, After moving to Portugal, you will need to file your tax. Unfortunately, you need to file your tax income here, and we can help you with this activity as well. And one of the one of the, let's say, parts of the process, the stage that people struggle the most is finding a place to live here. As you may know, the Portuguese real estate market is uh, very heating up. So there are many people looking for properties here, and not so many that are available. We are implementing a new um, portal where you can find more properties uh, that you won't find anywhere else. So this is something we've been working for a while, and finally we will put it into place. But yes, this is very briefly what we do.
Fantastic. So I didn't. Oh, do you want to talk about your offer? Sorry about that.
Yes, very quickly. So we are coming to the end of the year, and we have this offer for you guys. So for all new clients, we will share this 10% discount on our services. This is a campaign. And I just mentioned that you've participated in this webinar, and it will apply to you.
Fantastic. So on my side, I just want to let people know that if you go to my website, you can find all my free resources, access to my YouTube channel, the Move Overseas with Ease ebook, I have an international relocation starter course, which is a 4-lesson mini course. Access to my YouTube channel, videos, over 120 videos with everything you need to know for the right mindset to plan, implement, and live abroad. And I also have a Facebook group called Expat Connection with Deborah Dahab. You're welcome to join the group. So shall we go to the Q&A? Yeah?
Yes, we shall.
Fantastic. I love that we're super on time. Love it. So I'm going to start here. There's a mix of questions, Victor, some for me, some for you. So I'm going to start with you. So there are questions about how does one set up a Portuguese bank account from the US? And another one talking about is it true? Is it correct that people need a 1-year lease contract to obtain residency? I think people are confusing visa application with residency. And then how many months of bank statements do you need for the D7 application? 3 or 6 months? What is the minimum of funds? So kind of like what are the requirements in general for the D7? So if you want to explain a little bit, like broadly what that is. I can't hear you.
Sorry. Here I am.
It's okay.
So these are very good questions because banks and accommodation, they are topics that people do have questions. It's very common. And talk about the bank account. This is certainly when this can be a challenge, that's for sure, especially if you are not in Portugal to open it in person. Portuguese banks and overall European banks, they have these strict guidelines, these strict rules to create bank accounts for non-residents. And so to set up a Portuguese bank account from the US, probably you will need someone to be the middle person to make it happen. Someone who knows the bank's manager, or that can make the process a little smoother, um, because it's not easy to open by yourself. And this is certainly a place where people struggle a little bit, because there is this cultural thing that uh, it's a little more challenging in Portugal to do some things that should be simple, and this is one of them. For the accommodation, how many months you need to rent a property, this will change depending on where you are applying to. Um, Usually, it also depends on the visa that you are applying for. Usually, something between 6 months to 1 year lease agreement is the requirement, but it will change from the visa that you're applying for, where you are applying to. So it should be seen case by case. But yeah, these are areas where people usually struggle with, and having someone here to help you out can be a big plus in this process.
Fantastic. And about the minimum funds required for the D7,
Oh, good.
it's one minimum wage per person per month, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm becoming an expert.
That's it.
So the minimum wage today is what, 800 euros, something like that?
It's I it used to be 760 euros, but now the minimum wage has increased to, I guess, 820 euros.
Okay, 820. So
Yeah,
you guys do the math. One's minimum wage per person per month, 12.
exactly.
Okay. And then if they're dependents or children, then it's half that amount per dependent.
It's exactly. You know, you're very good.
Fantastic. So there are some questions here about the Prime Minister. This just happened, and it's like, do I need to be cautious with my trip? Look, Portugal is a democratic country, so this happens. So I don't see how this will influence or prevent people from having a scouting trip. So I don't, it's, this has happened before. It's not the first time a prime minister resigns. So yes, it's an important moment, but it's not like a revolution or anything. In my point of view, do you agree, Victor?
Totally. I agree.
Okay. Next question. So I'm going to get one that I can help. A question from Mary. This one is probably for me. Can you provide some examples of stories how it has not worked out for people? So according to the HR review, in corporate relocations, up to 40% of international assignments fail. Okay. I'm a case where it didn't work out. I lived in Portugal from 2001 to 2005. Hated every minute of it. I am not ashamed to say I didn't like it. I had a great job. I had even friends. I speak the language. I'm Brazilian. So I even have family here, but I was miserable. And looking back, I know that I was miserable because I didn't know the purpose of the move. I knew all the whys, but I didn't know the what for. And my move to Portugal did not align at the time with my goals, my long-term goals in life. So that's why I talk about this so much, because I'm living proof of this can happen. Thankfully, with a growth mindset, I went back and looked back at my mistakes. So there are tons of people, up to 40%, in any given country, according to the statistics of HR Review, that end up going back or going to a third country. So so Mary, I'll give you my own example, which is it didn't work out during 5 years. And I left, and then 8 years later, I came back with a different mindset, and I've been here for 10 years since. So Let me, another one for you, Victor. Teresa is looking to move to Portugal in the beginning of fall. So she needs help with passports, ID cards, paperwork, tax, health insurance, etc. So moving, would that be something that Viv Europe can help her with?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We are, at least we try our best to be a one-stop shop company. If we can't do it internally, we will have some partner who can help you with specific documents, specific procedure. You can send us an email uh, describing your situation, but it will be really, really a pleasure to help you out, you and your family.
Fantastic. So I have a question here from Sharon that this is something I get a lot, and people and Sharon is asking how bad or good is the bureaucracy in Portugal compared to North America. So I'm going to give my view, and Victor also, I think, if you want to give your view. So um, first, we have to define what good and bad is, because these are relative terms. The problem with bureaucracy for a foreigner is not the bureaucracy. It's the bureaucracy in a country you don't know the language, with rules spoken and unspoken that you don't understand, is feeling vulnerable, is feeling sometimes helpless that you don't know how to do things. Bureaucracy exists everywhere in the world to a lesser degree or to a higher degree. Now, if in North America, if you have ever been to the DMV, that is described typically as the seventh circle of hell. I've heard that description. The difference is that you go to the DMV, you speak English, the person talking to you also speaks English, hopefully. You can understand what is going on. You know the procedure. You know the body language. You don't feel vulnerable. You know and you feel empowered to solve whatever issue because you are aware of how things work. Now, when this happens in another situation where you are outside of your comfort zone, outside of the language you speak, things get magnified. So I have a client that she has been calling. She got divorced, wanted to change her name back to her maiden name. She has been on calls in the U.S. with Social Security to change her name on her Social Security card, IRS, whatever, for 8 months, going back and forth because they send her to someone else and they send her to someone else. So that's horrible for me. The difference is that when you are in a different country, you don't speak the language, you feel vulnerable, you feel exposed, and you don't feel the empowerment that you feel normally in your home country. So that's how I like to explain how bureaucracy can be worse or better. What are your thoughts on this, Victor?
I do agree with you, Deborah. Um, it magnifies the how hard it is to deal with Portuguese agencies. Usually, we also feel sometimes overwhelmed with new rules, new information, um, agencies that change from nothing, and we try to our best to pass an image that we are aware of the situation as we try our best to be. But it is a struggle. Of course, it is. As Deborah just mentioned, all countries has that they have the bureaucracy in a way. Portugal, I agree that is in a special place where uh, the country is not that large, and we are facing some changes in terms of demographic. There are many people coming to Portugal. Usually, the agencies are also, they do have this backlog. There are people who came here and cannot get the documents, and so we are in a specific um, period where things are a little more complicated than it used to be. That's what I see. What I see in practical terms. But again, it's something that most people they have to face in a way, that people who are moving to Portugal, and that expectation topic that we talked about in the beginning comes to place. So you need to consider that it's not all flowers. You will face some uh, complicated situations, just as dealing with bureaucracy, and add to the fact that you are not aware of language, the procedure, and that can be considered as well.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, let's get here. So I have two questions here about tips for finding a community and tips to integrate into Portuguese society besides learning the language. So the first thing that I would like to share is, first you have to define what integration means for you. What do you mean by that? What is your objective? Is it to only have Portuguese friends, to have friends from all over? Why that is important to you? Um, Learning the language is important in the sense that, yes, of course, you're living in a country, you should be able to speak minimally the language. But if you're not going to work or function in a way like study, or you don't need the language, you might not need a lot of Portuguese to make friends. So it's really thinking about, what does integration and what does community mean for you? It's hard to make friends abroad, regardless of the country. This is the top three challenges among expats in my research. And the reason being, one of the reasons being, is that we expect, and then going back to expectations, we expect, even sometimes unconsciously, that it's going to be easy to make friends. And when we look back at where we lived before, how long did it take to make your good friends? Sometimes decades. So you can't really expect that in 6 months you're going to have 15 BFFs. Probably not going to happen. So really understand, what is it you're looking for? Is it like social integration, just people to hang out? What is it you want in a community? And first of all, understand that it's an organic process that takes effort, that it's different probably from anything you've ever done, because when we are in our last country, our own environment, you meet people at work, or at the gym, or with a hobby, and when you're entering a new place, you're starting from scratch. So you're going to meet 100 people. 30 people will resonate. Then from those 30 people that resonate, 10 will have availability and 3 will go out with you. So really have to manage your expectations, not take things personally, and know what you want. Because when you know what you want, you can design ways to get it. So I hope this was clear. In your experience, Victor, how was it creating community for you? And you do speak Portuguese because you're Brazilian.
It was not easy, actually. Even though people say that when you go to the north region, people are more, you know, welcoming. I don't know if that's true or not, because I've never lived in the south region. But it was exactly what you explained, Deborah. I came here with some high hopes that I would find some good friends, good Brazilian friends, and I did find some, uh, especially because I went to the the college here to do my master's. So it was easier for me to be in touch with people who had the same goal here. But it was not easy. I still have this, the core friends that I made in Brazil. But again, yeah.
Please feel. Oh, sorry, you froze. So I started. You're
Oh,
back.
sorry,
Okay,
sorry.
you froze for a second.
What I was telling is that I still have my core friends. They are, in Brazil. Those who I've
Mhm.
made when I was young. I've made some good friends here, that's for sure. But I've been living here for the last 6 years, and of course you are one of them. um, and But yeah, it's not easy as people usually think.
Yeah. It's that's look, the top three challenges for expats, foreigners, immigrants in any country in Portugal is not is different is um, communication and lack of communication. So feeling frustrated about communication, even if you're Brazilian, because Portuguese from Portugal is quite different. I mean, you can communicate, but when you come to a level of work and stuff, it is quite different. The second, and not necessarily in that order, but the other challenge is loneliness and lack of connection which has to do with friendships. And the third one is overwhelm with everything. Like people feel super overwhelmed with everything that's going on. So we have time for two more questions. Let's get so George, yes, DMV is Department of Motor Vehicles. So there are questions here, Victor, about your fees. So I would suggest just people getting in touch. I know Viv offers a free consultation call. So I also
Exactly.
offer a free consultation call. If anyone's interested, on my website, you can schedule a 30-minute free call with me. There are specific questions. There's a question here about health insurance to compare. I think this is very specific. It depends. Like health insurance in Portugal, is it public? Is it private? Both. U.S. Medicare. I'm not as very familiar with U.S. Medicare or familiar enough to make this comparison. And the last question here is Valerie says, I've heard Portuguese people are tired of the influx of foreigners and are racist. My thoughts is it depends who you ask. Like anything in life. It depends. A lot of people say, yeah, there's a lot of Americans. Well, not that many compared to other nationalities, if you look at the statistics. And some people love the influx of foreigners, so other people don't. Depends also what you consider racist. I wouldn't say that compared to what I've seen in the US. Here, people are not as openly and blatantly racist, maybe in different ways, but that's my personal opinion. This is very subjective. And again, depends who you ask. If you ask the hospitality industry, if you ask the real estate industry, they're loving it. If you ask other industries, not so much. So like anything in life, it depends on the perspective.
I agree.
What are your
Totally.
thoughts?
I agree. And of course, there are some people who are, as in anywhere in the world. I don't, me myself, I don't like to be around them. And so for my group of people, we are all open to immigrants. There's no sign of uh, racist or anything related. But yeah, it depends on the person that you ask to. That's totally true.
Okay, so I think this is it. I hope because we're getting the 1 hour mark and I wanted to be respectful of everyone's time. So quickly, I want to share again. Um, People can get the Move Overseas ebook. I'm not sure, this is the first time I'm doing this. I'm not sure how this shows up. So please tell me if you can see the link. Um, and before we go, there was one question that we didn't address, and maybe we should, about for older people. So how is life for older people? Do you have any input on that? Like
So
senior living and
Portugal, it's a country that attracts many senior people due to its chill environment. This place where you can find some places to enjoy uh, beaches, to have a more uh, easy way of life. So overall, I think that Portugal is a nice place for those who want to enjoy life and then don't care about working anymore. But this is just an idea. Uh, I myself, I'm sure that when I retire, this is the country that I will be living at. That's for sure.
that's funny. That's funny. So let me just give here a little bit of an intercultural perspective. So Portugal is considered a family-oriented collective society, meaning that there is still a lot of care given by family members to to the older people in the family. So it's not uncommon to see three generations on a Sunday lunch at a restaurant, like, the grandparent, the parent, and the child. People don't move out from their homes or their houses, their parents' houses, like to go to university. This is not as common as in the States. So, that said, in general, the senior living facilities are not like in the US or other countries because the role of the family is still very present. By the way, not only with the seniors, but also with childcare. So it's very common to have, grandparents taking care of their grandchildren due to this, multi-generational aspect of the families and the way the society is weaved here. So it is not the same logic or the same way things are done in the States. And this is something that to keep in mind. And again, going back to research, adjust your expectations, get informed information to make informed decisions, because this is a big deal. This is a life-changing moment, and you want to get it right the first time. Don't be like me, get it right the first time. So thank you so much. Any final words, Victor, before we go?
I just want to thank you, Deborah. As always, you've been amazing. Thank everybody that was here as well. Some of our clients are here. Some people that I don't know yet. It was a pleasure talking to you. And this is the second time that I'm doing this webinar with Deborah, and certainly we'll have many other webinars and other topics to talk about as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Victor, for your availability. I know you're in transit a little bit, so I hope you have safe travels. And thank you, everyone, for your participation, your questions. It has been amazing. I hope you enjoy the ebook. Feel free to get in touch. As I mentioned on my website, I have loads of free resources, and I hope this was helpful. I hope this was a good use of your time and energy. And I've been honored to have everyone here. And I hope to see you next time in a webinar. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.